when someone plays me music, it tells me a lot more than a conversation with a person. It tells me about how is a person structured, how creative is a person, how kind of like, safe is a person. But it's important to have a vision and follow the vision. And if there's steps on your vision you cannot realize yourself, ask someone for help.
Yes.
I was never afraid of asking someone.
Welcome to Born to Create, the podcast where we delve deep into the minds and hearts of artists from all walks of life. I'm your host, Maria, and each week we explore the powerful relationship between creativity and the human experience. Here, artists share their most meaningful life lessons, profound transformations, and the challenges they face along the way. Together, we'll uncover how creativity has shaped their mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Join us on this journey of discovery and inspiration and find out how creativity can impact your life too. Okay, well, today I'm really excited and super honored because I'm with Timo Maas, and he needs little to no introduction, to be honest. But I will tell you anyways. He's a German producer, label manager, DJ, and he's one of the key figures in shaping the progressive house sound or techno sound in the 90s and early 2000s. And he also collaborated with numerous artists. He's told me so many stories already, but I done a little search, and it's just a long list of amazing achievements and collaborations and remixes. So he's like the king of remixing, really, and so many more things that he's done. And I'm so excited to have you here, Timo, because like you have helped me so much on my journey since I've known you. You have such an amazing ear, helped me so much in progressing my music as well. And there's so much wisdom coming through you. So I'm so excited to have you here today so that people can have a little bit of a, can receive some of that beautiful wisdom from you today as well. Thank you, Timo. Welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very much looking forward to this conversation. And thanks for the props. It's like I just do what I love. Very simple. Yeah. And I'm more or less happy with that. And it's like the words you just said. It's like I feel honored, obviously. I've done a lot of things. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. This is amazing. I mean, so one question I would love to start off with all of these things that I've just listed and more that I wouldn't have been able to put that all into the introduction. What is it in you, in Timo, that would have made all of this happen?
Well, I mean, going really back in time, I try to keep myself a little short. So I come from a shit family. Long story short, come from a shit family. Didn't have any friends or anything like that when I was a child. And I pretty much very early in my life, already with the age of 8, 9, I realized that, music is, something that triggers me very much more than anything else in life. And then also years later, when I was around like 12, 13, I understood that music is probably the language I can speak the best with people because no one was speaking with me. I was the kind of like outsider kid coming from shit family, blah, 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 blah. But when I had my interest in music from very early years already, and when like, the kids around, I kind of recognized, oh, he's the guy, he has the records or he has the recordings and whatever. He's so much into music. That was the first time in my life that I had a subject to talk about, and that I had kind of like, found in the very early days my language to communicate with the outside. And now fast forward, I'm 55 now. And I would say until the day of today, music is probably the best language I can speak because it was first the bridge from like a bridge into the social life for me in the very early days. And I understood also over the years that it's still the best language I can speak. I can express myself the most with music. If it's like, my feelings, most importantly, my feelings, things I got in my head, I can express the best with music. And, my whole life is actually created around this, created around, the communication with people, the subject, what I am communicating about. It's all about that, and just love it. I just love it so much, and I understood myself over time also that I mean we talk and it's
Yeah.
nice, and so but let me do a DJ set and in the right atmosphere, and
Mm.
I can reflect. I guess I can reflect like atmospheres, feelings, and so on and so on, like pretty much perfect.
Mm.
When I got my tools, I can just speak my preferable language. So
Yes. Yes.
breathe, you call it.
Oh, that's beautiful. It seems like the creative aspect of expressing yourself through music has really helped you in so many ways, profound ways. And you mentioned
In every way.
in every way. Yeah. So what do you think it is about music or that creativity? Like, how would you describe what that might be?
What do you mean exactly? Sorry.
Um, what what is that force, I guess? Like, how would you put like in your words, and even if that question triggers a thought in you right now, and that might be the answer. But
I well, music. When I was as a child, when I was listening to music, it was just like it was giving me different kind of ways of thinking, ways of as I say, I don't want to always come back to the shit family, but it was like there was not much emotion in the family or anything
mm,
like that. But music gave me emotion. Music gave me from the early days as a child, gave me like kind of feelings I didn't experience out of my, let's say, daily life, family life, or anything like that. It was just rather special. I felt very comfortable in this kind of bubble that basically I
mm,
created myself in my head. And in the beginning, I felt a little bit lonely also, but over the years, it became more and more my comfort zone.
mm,
It's like if I express myself, as a DJ, playing my sets or anything, that just like the soul, like playing music, finding music, talking with people about music, finding, this kind of like, people who love music are usually, I would say, me- creative people, people that are just like, thinking a little bit further than the normal. Yeah, a little bit over the Tellerrand, we say in German. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a little bit like out of the comfort zone and so on. And I mean, I have had endless situations, endless conversations, endless like creative moments just due to the love of it, due to the conversation about that over the span of my life that, I truly can say I don't know, I could not exist without music. As it is. Until today, it's my preferable language, and not just that. It's also, I mean, there's always some music going on here. It's like in my house, there's always some music going on. Not always like in your face, and obviously not always electronic music. I'm married to a Latin woman, as you know, so it's like, this quite often, it's just some, like vintage Latin music somewhere in the background. Why? Just because it's, with music, you can control vibes. Not just control, but you can create and control vibes. And this you can do actually with any kind of music, as long, well, in my opinion, as long as it's good music. There's only,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
there's
And
only.
you've created such a wide range as well of genres, and yeah, with all of them, you go into such depth. Like what I've experienced with you is like the amazing way of how you listen to, and what you hear, and to a detail that's yeah very profound. So tell me a little bit more. What perhaps was your what was your first track that you really started to create, and how was that process for you?
I would say I go one step before that.
Go on.
The first time I was, let's say, really, really caught, really like completely taken out of my very young but so-called real life, that was when I was like 10, 11. Around that time, there was Jean-Michel Jarre, actually, who with like his first albums, I think it was Oxygen and Equinox. the first two albums that came out in the late 70s, very early 80s. And this was the first time when I was listening to this music. This was the first time that I was properly, without like, having, any control about it, where I was properly losing myself into the music, where I was properly taken out of the so-called real world, where, I was like, just to listen to the music, where I was like, there were doors opening until the day of today. There were doors opening where I had absolutely no clue about that these are existing. Yeah. And I had no clue about what this kind of emotion, feeling, trip, call it what you want, what was behind the doors. I was experiencing, as I say, it was like 10, 11. I was experiencing that for the first time. It was just like, it was for me, it was like opening Pandora's box. And Jean Chejard, until the day of today, I like to mention him because it's like, he really is probably the most important kind of influencer of the early days who really brought me on the path where I am since. I met him, when was it, 6 years ago or so? I met him on quite an exclusive like meeting in Switzerland. And I introduced myself to him and wanted to say, hey, I'm Timo Maas, you opened my you opened it for me.
Yeah.
And then it came out, he said, oh, you're Timo Maas. I'm a big fan of yours, he told me. I said, no fucking way. I said, you are the reason that I'm standing here. And so I
Wow.
had the opportunity to also directly exchange that with him. And it was like even more surprising that, the inspiration I was getting from him was kind of like reflecting back to him also like years later. So
Yeah.
awesome. And this is like, um, I have experienced something since, as I say, as a child, I had no idea about it. And also, I understood due to this, like, kind of like the trips someone can take you on, like, what power music has and what power it has also, not just to kind of, let's say, listen to that, dance to that, or also mentally, what music can do in your head, calming you down, exciting you, scaring you, and so on and so on and so on. So this was, you're talking about like, how
Yeah.
deep I am in my listening behavior and so on.
Mm.
It comes from these early days. And it was only sharpening since. When I listen now to music nowadays, sometimes I'm just not triggered because it's something like I'm always an instinct driven person.
Mm.
But sometimes it's just like I'm completely blown away by what I'm hearing. It's
Mm.
not about it's just somehow music can trigger me so deeply like nothing else in life can do, even not my wife. And it's a it's a different level of
Yes,
being
of course.
anyways. But I still love it like
Mm.
so much. I could not live, breathe, and exist without music.
Yes, yes. Well, yeah. Well, I can see that just from you speaking, but of course, like the world can see it through the music that you are creating and continuing to create all the time. Um, and yeah, so I guess like going back on like what was your one apart from what you've just shared, and that's an amazing experience actually to then meet him 6 years ago and have that reflected back, although that he inspired you. What was a track that you're the first track that you created, where you've yeah felt like how was that experience for you, I guess, from the first track that you created where it was like the start of your, I guess, career?
Yeah, well, before I released something, I released the first track back in '94, so 30 years ago. But I was starting already in the 1980s to make experiments in music. So starting really with a reel-to-reel band machine, with a reel-to-reel like
Uh-huh.
also like
Yeah.
a tape machine. Where when I was like 15, 16 or so, when I was sitting with a friend, I always sit with someone who's like kind of doing the technical part. I was never so much interested in the technical part. I was always interested in the creative part, also in the
Mm.
very early years, it was 15, 16. And we were sitting there in front of this wheel to wheel and played like, recorded 12 inches and then cut the tapes, actually, literally cut the tapes and glue them back together to make like master mixes on
Wow.
tape. and so like doing like it was like if you really see that it was like kind of like remixing early stages of remixing
Mm.
early stages of like things like differently together to create a different vibe. And I remember it was like Paul Hardcastle's 19 when that came out. I think that was in 84 or something like that. That was and that was available in so many different kind of like 12-inch versions, and we played like all those 12-inch versions onto the tape and like cut it together and made like a kind of a master mix of this track 19. And well, that was basically that was the first thing that I had to result out of the experiment. My first own, well, I mean, yeah, well, 94, I released my first track. I did like experiments here and there, late 80s, early 90s, and so on. Was sitting with my friends on some synthesizers and 303 and some like kind of like old school like sampler keyboards, and so wow, we have 2 seconds of sample time. Whoa, let's use the best. Yeah? and all the time and just getting used to kind of like involving like technical toys
Mm.
to kind of like express myself better. I always been a DJ from the very early days on because I understood coming back to the language,
Mm.
I understood very early already when I was like playing for the first time at the age of 13, 14. I understood how much power you have as a DJ and how much like ways of communication. And this is until the day of today. I don't know if the DJs, if the young DJs are really aware of the power they theoretically have on people, like how much you can control vibes, how much you can control masses, really,
Mm.
with like playing the
Nice.
right music and playing the right
Yes.
sound. So it's like it's something. Uh, Also, it's as I say, that is important not to underrate. It's like I mean, I had situations in my DJ career that someone pissed me off, a promoter pissed me off. I thought, okay, great party, blah blah blah, and so on and so on. But okay, I'm going to piss you off. I wasn't playing the empty. Also, this is possible. As I say, the power of it. I was just creating vibes that were just too overwhelming. That people came and said, "Hey, I mean, seriously, it's like it's getting too crazy here. What are you doing here?" And it just shows that you have theoretically as someone who understands music, if it's on the production side,
Mm.
if it's the DJ side, you have a lot of power. You can do a lot with people. You can express yourself, obviously,
Mm.
but also you have a lot of influence on people. A lot
Yes.
of and as you know, also I would say a story of my life is that I'm always against the mainstream in a way, even though I have been in parts of my career and life like totally mainstream. But interesting enough, I've been mainstream with stuff that never has been really kind of like
Mm.
connecting to what is hip at the moment, anything like that. All the most successful things I've done were completely against any trends, completely against any kind of like tendencies or anything like that. I just did something with my partners, and then just like, oh fuck, this is like, oh, it works.
Mm.
It's people ask me what is it, what kind of style. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I only have this idea. It's pretty fucking cool. And I like this to sit between the chairs because this is something that sustains.
Mm.
When you use the typical recipes as teacher, it's the typical recipes in music production and so on and so on. You get also the typical reception and so on. And so we had conversations about that.
Mm.
But as soon as you go against it, as soon as you kind of like experiment around, do the unusual, do the disturbing, do the experimental, and so on and so on. It's like I feel a lot more comfortable in this. Maybe because of my background, because I
Mm.
was never kind of like even in my personal life kind of mainstream. I was
Mm.
always against everything. I never had support from family, for example. I was always working super hard and fighting for my way. I always had to fight. Also in the
Mm.
family, I never had any support. I
Yeah.
was rather anti-support. They hated what I did. They
Mm.
all like my family, whatever, uncle, aunt.
Mm.
parents and so on and so on, they always like criticize me for that. It's like what you're doing there. It has no sense and blah blah blah. And when I was eventually many years later starting becoming successful, then everyone said, "Yeah, I knew that before. I'm so proud of you." And then
Right. Yeah.
I showed them this and said, "Fuck
Mm.
off! What have you done for that? Why are you? What are you proud of? What are you proud of? You
Mm.
tried to destroy my dreams in the early days, and now you're telling me you're proud." I said,
Mm.
something's wrong in here, don't you think? So
Mm.
I still, to most of, well, part of my family passed away, but some parts of my family still have no contact
Yeah. Yeah.
because of the dishonesty and basically like kind of
Yeah.
like, can I say, I don't know, shining in my light without
Right.
having, they were trying to turn off my light in the
Mm.
early days. And
Mm.
then, and then later on, like trying to shine my light. It's not just the family, but it's also, with the surrounding and so on and so on.
Mm.
I have learned over my life, I mean, how can I express it? I'm always been very much focused on myself because I have been hurt, I have been used, I have been this and that over the time. I'm a super nice guy, but I needed to protect myself at a certain point in my life and also in my career to not be used. Because I'm a nice guy and I'm just whatever. I don't have every talent, but I have a few talents where I'm pretty good in. And I have been used over the years.
Mm.
I have been ripped off by partners. I have been ripped off by managements. I'm talking about like,
Mm.
high six-digit numbers that people stole of me and
Mm.
so on over the period and not just once. Things happened, management kept me like, let's say, stupid, didn't give me all the information of revenue streams and cashed in my name.
Mm.
And I only found out many years later. So I'm a very careful person. I'm very careful still. I'm very careful. Gebranntes Kind scheut das Feuer. So
Mm.
once you burnt yourself, it's like you're careful with fire, basically. Yeah.
Right.
Um, a principle of my life still, but I'm still a very, let's say,
Well, yeah.
nice guy. I'm still very creative. I'm still very open-minded, and I'm a super loyal friend and also a business partner, and so on and so on. And this is just qualities I have to protect myself a little bit with, but also that's one of my strengths, I guess.
Yeah.
Because
Yes. And
you play me music, and I'm not listening to music. I'm listening to the emotion.
yeah.
You know that also when we met for the first time, the first thing I was interested in was not your track, it was more you.
Mm.
To understand your music better because it's my language. I understand the language music very well.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yeah.
I'm not limited to one particular style. I'm just limited to good and bad music. This
Hmm.
is the
Yeah.
styles that are there.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Actually, I mean, it wasn't easy to satisfy you in that sense, which was good because it brought the best out. And I can talk for myself, but also from all the other students as well. This is like really such a like a gift that you have is to bring out the truth and I guess that's understanding the person
It's
and
something
it's
you have to learn also. You have to learn or you have to understand, first of all, being honest to yourself.
Mm.
And then on the next level is to understand, to bring the honesty
Mm.
over to the person you're communicating.
Yeah.
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 So it's like you say, I'm not easy to satisfy. I mean, this is my very subjective view. I'm not saying, hey, I know everything or anything like that. But as you know, I follow my instinct and
Yeah.
my very personal subjective view of things. And I would say was like having listened to like probably millions of songs and tracks over
Right.
the span of my life. There's obviously, some sorts of feelings I'm having about music that, people that didn't listen to so much music don't have.
Yeah.
Simple as that. It's a question of experience then.
No, absolutely. And I think that was amazing always because like when you know that from if you get a thumbs up from Timo, okay, you're on the right track.
Remember
because
this
because of that.
situation we both had we both had in the retreat, but you
Mm.
played me this one song. We were sitting in your comfortable corner there on the table, and then I was listening to your song. I was looking out on this on the sea, and then I said, "You just wrote this, looking out on this, yeah."
Yes.
Remember that? It's
I
like
remember that.
I
Yes.
was completely, I was 100% feeling that. I was understanding you, not in the things you told me. It was in the things you made, you
Mm.
created.
Mm.
And I was touched by that because, in my frank opinion,
Mm.
I was feeling this is the real thing. This is
Mm.
what this is. Music is ideally a reflection of what you see and experience.
Yeah.
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 In the end of the day, this is what I see. Is also, for example, with collaboration. The collaboration, the result of a collaboration, is a reflection of how this collaboration, how the interaction between the collaborators is actually happening. Now,
Yeah.
sometimes you meet someone and then you do technical things and it's great and so on and so on. And sometimes you meet someone, you're on this kind of like special kind of like sense.
Mm.
And then, ideally it gets over into this kind of like magical part.
Mm.
Then to fix that and record that, well, this is then the end
Yeah.
result, the music end result then of the collaboration. I'm doing a lot of
Yes.
collaborations,
Yes.
but I only do collaborations with people I'm clicking with. I'm kind of like connecting on a different kind of level than just on a technical or professional level. So
Yes. Yeah.
I've always been a viber. Sometimes I'm
Yeah.
right, sometimes I'm wrong, but I trusted my whole life uh, much more my instinct than the logic. So
Mm.
it's much more my
Mm.
instinct. Sometimes, often right, sometimes wrong. If I would have followed the logic and
Right.
the business and the recommendations business wise, I would probably just sit on Ibiza right now in my villa and just like enough money on the account, to not worry about. But I was always very uncomfortable in kind of like selling my soul. I had the opportunities to in the business, in the peak of my career, to like go to the next level, go to this, we got to
Mm.
create this and that out of you and so on and so on. When I felt uncomfortable with something, I said,
Mm.
and I seriously had very, very big opportunities. Looking back now, like the people that were offering me to work with me, there's a lot of them that are extremely successful nowadays. And I know I would have been probably somewhere near them nowadays if I would have made the decision, but I could not make the decision
Mm.
just because I felt uncomfortable. And I never wanted to sell my soul.
Yeah.
One thing also coming back to my background, where, family background and so on and so on. For me, one of the things, because I was so uncool as a child, because I didn't have the brand sneakers, I didn't have this, I didn't have that, anything like that. For me, it was always most important thing to be accepted, first of all, and
Mm.
then also respected for that what I do. Because this is something I really truly needed to work on from, on my own, on my very personal path from the beginning on, because I had no other choice. I knew already as a 10-year-old that I need to leave home to
Mm-hmm.
have freedom, also freedom in my thoughts. And I understood that already as a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
a 10-year-old, I had already a plan when I'm going to go, what I'm going to do. I wanted to study, actually. I wanted to go to university, but I decided to go a different path. I didn't go to university just because of I was so caught up in the mental prison I've been as a child, that for me, even as a very small child, I was already knowing I need to get out of this cage,
Wow.
really. And
Mm.
music was and is still, until the day of today, the leading force which was like, yeah, which, as I said, I repeat myself, which
Yeah.
was always, the best, I don't know, language for me,
Mm.
the best way of like expressing myself, the best way of like, finding the directions in life.
Yeah. It feels like there's that from early on. I mean, you've always been very connected to yourself and to your intuition, almost like, to the purity of you, to the authenticity, and that you kind of I mean, you follow that all your lifetime through, really, and shown that in all those challenges where you mentioned, like, okay, you could have had this or that, but because of the feeling, I think this really connectedness to you, to your soul, or however you like to call it, you've stayed true to yourself, and I think as it
I had no
looks
other
like,
choice. I
mm,
had no other choice. In reality, I had no other choice before losing myself or just
mm,
being, oh, just like, being, kind of like, untergeordnet, but kind of like, just being just
yeah,
another person, just another normal thing. I, I, I knew something is kind of like inside me that needs to be expressed. And I knew it's like, I mean, to be against like the whole family, friends and stuff like that in the early days, and everyone said, "Hey, why are you doing that?" I mean, when I started, t-shirts were not cool, and to be interested in music was like something that was quite uncommon, and never ever anyone around me would have expected that there is a profession behind it. I'm 30 years professional,
mm,
and why is that? Because I love music,
mm,
because I probably also understood how important how important important it is. Well, I love music, and everything else is created around it. I had a normal daytime job too, but I
mm,
gave that up just because, against every recommendation, everyone said you cannot give up your daytime job. I said I want to make music. I
mm,
want to do this. I want to try at least if I can sustain with that. If I can, with something I love so much. If I can also, it's like basically pay my bills in the end of the day, and also, therefore being like really happy doing something that you love. In the end of the day, I just see that also with my wife. She found the job that she loves. She doesn't make too much money, but she goes with a smile to work, and she
mm.
comes with a big smile from work.
Matters.
And
Mm,
and I think this is much more important. And it's like, of course, there's highs and lows, and so on and so on. And I had loads of both highs and lows, but in the end of the day, the driving force is the music, the love to the music, and it always
mm.
gives me also. When I'm really down, I listen to the right music, I dive into some project, I have some kind of like ideas, and just follow my instinct, and always, always brings me back on the path. Always
Mm.
gives me the mental stability and everything what's connected to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's your language. It's I guess your voice, your language. Um, I'm curious, like one question came up for me, like let's say um your childhood or your family was not as challenging as it was. Like how, I mean, it's always easy to kind of think, oh, how might it have been then? But what do you think, what difference would it have made on your, I guess, driving force of everything that you've just shared around music and around the respect and so on? Do you think how might it be different? I mean, it's
Things would have been probably a little bit easier, but I would have only been accepted at least.
mm,
I mean, even better when I would have been supported. But then on the other hand, I learned from the very early days on how much it's worth it to really invest into your dreams. Into when you have dreams. My daughter, many years ago, she's 19 now, but when she was like around 10 or so, we were watching some acrobats on TV,
yeah.
some circus stuff and so on. Oh, I would love to do that. I can never do that. And I said to my daughter, listen, you're only 10, but I can tell you, if you really believe in something, if you really want to do something, follow your dreams and do everything for that. Do everything for that. And you will see you have results. Believe in your dreams. It's the most important thing. You have to have dreams. You have to have visions to know in what direction you go. No one we know Murphy's law, so it always comes differently than you plan it. But in the end of the day, I told my daughter, you can be an astronaut if you really want to. You can be a
Yeah.
jet pilot, you can be a chef, you can be an
Yes.
acrobat, you can be whatever you want. If you really believe in that, what you want to do, you can do it, but you have to do it. No
Yeah.
one's doing it for you. No one is taking that over from you. It's in your mind. I mean, I had two things I was really keen on also as a child, and still until the day of today. It's that. It's music, it's the first thing. Food is the second. If I would have not, let's say, made my way into the music, I would have made my way into a direction of like cooking, anything that's connected with food, because that's my other passion. I have two major passions,
Food and music.
and blah blah blah, but two major passions. So I
Yes.
love the music, I make my money with that, and so on and so on. It's my business also. But on the other hand, I also love cooking. It's like it's the same. In the end of the day, same. Because it's like with music. The ingredients you get everywhere, but what you make out of that, that's the art.
True.
And for me, like proper chefs are artists, for example. It's not like they prepare food, they are artists. It's like they take the ingredients and they do something magical out of 4 fucking ingredients, where you just say, what the heck is that? This is just fucking unbelievable. How did you do that? And I like that. And I like that. It's inspiring me. Food is still cooking. It's inspiring me to make music, and it's still also calming me down when I'm too much stuck in my thoughts. It's like for me, it's yin and yang. For me, it's like my Zen zone is like when I'm in the kitchen and chopping veggies for hours, preparing something, sometimes like 10, 12 hours in the kitchen to have like 10, 15 minutes in the evening when I have guests, for dinner, everyone big smile on their face. It's worth it for me. It's like, it's like, yes, this is what I want. It's this excitement. It's the same as like people, close their eyes, losing themselves on the dance floor when I'm playing. Also, it's quite a similar feeling. And I absolutely love this. I love to trigger people on, sometimes opening their mind, and inspire them. Yeah, and I just love to see people reacting in ways they had no idea they can react. As I say, people on the dance floor, ideally, the ideal set, for example, for me is, I play a few hours, small little club, great sound system, and so on. And when the people have the feeling after that night that what the fuck was that feeling? This is what I'm trying to achieve. People experience beyond their expectations. I'm not just playing tracks, in my frank opinion. When I DJ, ideally I take people on a journey, and it's kind of a similar thing with cooking too. I like this. I like to take people out of reality and share my visions and so on. Now we're talking about musically with them in ways they didn't know. So I make them dancing with tracks they don't know. I give them emotions with situations they have not experienced before. I had DJ sets when even I was crying for joy. I mean, I had a whole bunch of those things. And, when at the end of a long night, people had tears in their eyes. I had tears in my eyes because it was just such a connection. And it was just this perfection of what you are theoretically able in playing music. It's not playing the beatport charts for 2 hours. It's not about that. It's about touching people's emotions, giving them also sometimes a path to express themselves. There's a lot of introverted people I know, but as soon as they listen to music or as they make music, they're different people. It's like, and it's for some people, also with my students I've met in the past, it's like I see what music can do. It's like, I have some totally introverted people I'm talking to on a regular basis. And as soon as we have like the right path talking about music, diving into project, talking about the emotions, so it's different people. It's like, it seems like, wow, someone understands me.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's beautiful. And
I'm a viber. I always been extremely, let's say, emotional and also like empathic and so on and so on. I protected myself. Sometimes I know when I'm DJing, I always look serious. I'm not like this. I'm not this kind of guy. For me, myself is not so important as that what I'm standing for. I want to transfer. For me, the music is always the most important thing. People say when I play, hey, smile. Is that inside I'm smiling? I'm just sorry for my expression, but I'm totally in it.
Yeah.
I'm in my bubble. Just listen. Just, come
Yeah.
with me.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
take you.
I hear you. You're in tune with it and feeling it, and
Yeah, totally.
yeah, not focusing on the outside or external. You're like in it with the music. And so one thing that I just wanted to also circle back on what you mentioned before, I think like one huge lesson to take from your experience is that I think what is invaluable is almost that confidence that you have, you can create everything if you put your mind to it against all odds because you've defied those odds but and stayed true to yourself and have created that and to pass that on to your daughter. I think that is the most invaluable lesson that anybody or the most invaluable thing that you could receive from your parent to open that up for you because yeah, most people they believe, oh, I cannot do it, or lack in confidence, or even when they have a difficult upbringing, oftentimes they believe that they can't what they're being told. But you didn't. You defied those odds. I think that's just amazing. I just wanted to point that out. That that's a huge
I mean,
thing.
I had a I have a very good relationship to my daughter. Also, we had a really good conversation the other day, 2 days, 3 days ago, and I said, "How are you nowadays?" She starts studying now next week. Finally, so I told her how proud I am because this what she's doing right now was my dream my whole life. I couldn't do it just for the circumstances of life, and but I'm super proud of her. And I said, "How are you?" And she said, "Dad, I'm perfect. I
Mhm.
feel I feel confident. I'm happy. I love my life. I love the direction I'm going. I love my surrounding. For me, the most important thing in the upbringing, it wasn't easy. I'm divorced, so the child I divorced from her mother when she was 5. So it's like, of course, it's a difficult thing. And then me with my profession and always with the road and a strange character, anyways. So it wasn't let's say easy to kind of like transport uh, uh, traditional like things to her. But in the end of the most important for me was I wanted her to be sensitive, aware, open-minded, empathic, and this was much more important for me than let's say great notes in school or anything like that.
Mhm.
Fortunately, she has great notes in school. She made a really good. What is Abitur in English again?
Well, like A levels is like A levels
I
in
know.
the
Yeah,
UK.
yeah, yeah. So like,
Yeah.
however, and it's like it's. I'm super proud of her as she is now in the real beginning of her real life. Yeah, what
Mhm.
comes after childhood, and she's, I think, in the perfect position. And when when I was a part of like developing this kind of like character, I cannot be more proud than that. But
Yes.
same thing with my wife. Um, she also, it's like just talked about this last night. It's like we have our wedding day on Sunday. We're
Oh, oh,
4 years
beautiful.
married
Yes.
on Sunday. And it's like, and we just kind of, it's a similar thing. We're totally open towards each other when we have worries, when we have whatever we're thinking, we're
Mhm.
always communicating. Sometimes it's normal.
Normal.
But in the
Important.
end of the day, it's super important. But in the end of the day, I helped her thinking differently ways that she was learning it in her own use.
Mm.
Yeah. Because we come from a completely different upbringing with a completely different background, but I try to share certain, let's say, rather points of views in life, and how you kind of like, kind of judge and see the things that are happening around you and with you, and see them from a different point of view. Not everything bad is actually a bad experience.
Mm.
Bad things that happen to you are also very healthy things for you to find a realistic path in your life for the future. So it's like I told you, I've been down on the floor. I come from very down there, so I know how shit smells basically. And I've been several times in my life. I've been down on the floor, but I always with a pure belief in, it's like when you just stand still and wait for something, nothing's going to happen. But I really strongly do believe in you have dreams, realize them. You
Mm.
know, how many people talk about dreams, about their visions, and so on and so on. And they talk and talk and talk. It's this typical, hey, when I would win in the lottery, I would do this and that. And then my first question is, do you play the lottery? No. I said, then let's change subject. Because what the fuck you're talking about?
Mm.
And it's like, I've done so many things in my life. Some succeeded, some didn't. Let's say I constantly have ideas, 10 strange ideas. 8 are complete shit, but 2 work. And then they are so quirky and different, and that they also sustain.
Mm.
Because everything that is not standard, everything that doesn't, thoughts, music, whatever, doesn't fit into a kind of standard frame is interesting in a way.
Mm.
Not always touches people, but it's, as I say, coming back to children, you know, trying to share experience and so on and so on. I'm pretty sure daughter's a great example. I'm pretty sure she's gonna go her way. I don't worry about her at all. She's only 19, but I don't worry about her at all.
Yeah.
Because she's so smart, and she took certain things well, she has also some sides from her mother. Uh, uh, um, but the things I recognize clearly that come from my direction, I'm extremely proud of her. And I know this is the basis for, wherever she goes in her life. I
Mm.
trust her. I
Yeah.
don't have problems. Most importantly, I trust her. And she trusts me. And
Yeah.
she tells me everything. I never asked her about it.
Mm.
She's super honest, we're super open, and she tells me anything. If she
Yeah.
doesn't want to tell me, fine, it's
Mm.
okay. She makes this and that decision, fine. She's
Yeah.
old enough to make her decisions. I never told her to do something, never told her to do something apart from cleaning up her room or the kitchen. But apart from that, I was listening to her, and I gave her, like, let's say, options, but I never made a decision for her. Even as a child, she has to make her own decisions to be secure on the way she's leading.
Wow.
And it's something I have experienced also in my childhood, that everything was forbidden. Yeah? Everything was forbidden. My friends were forbidden. Music was forbidden. When I had my first turntable, my mother was throwing it in the bin while I was working. I came back from work. Where's my turntable? Where's my old school amplifier? I didn't have money, so I was super proud of this thing. Yeah, you're making too much noise. I threw it in the bin. This kind of situations, also psychological. I was confronted with, and I was obviously also hurt with that. Cool. But also it has sharpened me in the character I am, and the seriousness I have, the things I do, think, create, whatever.
Yeah. Well, and you've done a phenomenal job to translate what you've learned into giving it back to your daughter. And I think you trust her, and you don't worry about her because you've nurtured her, her in the right places, like from the inside out, rather than forbidding and all of that, which often actually makes one be non-aligned to one's truth, right? So she's aligned to her.
It's another example. I told you I love food. When she was a child, when she was like a small child, I never forced her to eat something, but I presented her everything. And I always said, try, and then you make a decision. Don't like it, fine. I never forced her to finish her plate or anything like that.
Very good.
It's like, I never put any kind of pressure. Result, she eats everything. It's like, I know enough to learn from my friends. Have pasta, pizza, all this shit. And my daughter, it's just an example. She's just completely open-minded. When we from time to time travel together, she's trying everything out. She's totally kind of experimental, and then also not with a bad vibe or afraid of anything. Just tries it out, and if it doesn't work, fine. It's something. We move on.
Yeah.
And if you, I learned, if you, even if you're leading someone, it's super important to listen also to this someone, to the person. It's important to listen. And then I never, as I say, and also with my students, I never make decisions for my students, but I'm trying to give options for my students from my very personal view, to help making decisions. But decisions in life, no matter how old you are, you should ideally make yourself, and not you do it for the favor of someone.
Yeah.
how many decisions we have done, or at least considered to do, by by the recommendation of our parents or
Mm.
close friends or anything like that, and then you do this decision, and then you feel uncomfortable, and so on and so on. And it's a learning process, and I've learned that this doesn't make sense. It
No.
makes sense if when you want to be really passionate about something, when you really
Yeah.
want to be able to love something, you also have to have the freedom to discover it for yourself.
Right. Yeah. Because then you get to know yourself, and if you
Yes,
don't,
yes,
yeah, yeah,
yes.
if you don't know yourself, then that
And I
creates all
mean,
kinds of other issues.
kids are characters as soon as they're born.
Mm.
And let's say in the beginning, of course, nursing them and blah, blah, blah. And then the older they get, the more it goes more, they are the characters already. You
Yeah.
kind of like, ideally, push a little bit left and right. And, as I say, give options and so on. Try to make the doors visible that they can open if they want. And if they make the decision for themselves, but the characters are there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like that. Just like that.
Yeah.
I've learned that also. I mean, I know I'm a character too, and I've always been this character. And I have learned from the very early days how important it is to be kind of like be aligned with yourself
Mhm.
and be comfortable with yourself in the ways you're thinking, in the ways you're going, and so on and so on. Of course, I've been afraid in certain moments of my life. Do I go this direction? There's no guarantee for nothing. So also when I kind of like, started being professional, I gave myself 1 year. I said, okay, 1 year, I'm giving myself to find the ground to work on, or I'm gonna like invest my time, invest my life into like another professional direction. I come from telecommunication. I learned telecommunication electronic with a Deutsche Telekom back in the years, and the telecommunication market in the mid-90s was completely exploding. It's exploding since, but it was exactly the time. Mobile phones came, blah, 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 all this internet and all that. I mean, I did my first like waves in music without the internet. Imagine
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
No
it's
research
true.
via internet, research via magazines, record sleeves, and all the
Right.
shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, but what can I say? I said this early on. I have also learned how much it's worth it to work hard for your dreams. I would not be here talking to you with the age of 55 about like techno grandpa here, about like my experience over all those years and everything that is connected to that. It's not just, let's say, a music style, it's a lifestyle. It's a complete lifestyle. It's the way of thinking, it's the way of how open you are generally for things around you, not just in professional life and private life, and things that life in general has to present to you, how you handle situations and so on and so on. I've learned that I'm learning every day. I'm even learning today. I've learned today in the meeting I had before we are talking already so many things again that I will take on my journey. I have never reached the point in my life where I said, hey, I'm here, I'm there. I said, I was just seeing an interview of mine from 25 years ago. And someone asked me, blah, 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 it's like, are you on the top or so? I said, as soon as I have the feeling I'm on the top, as soon as I have the feeling I've made it, I'm going to lose it afterwards. Because this is like, it
Wow.
seems like, the ultimate point to
Mm.
reach, but what comes after that?
Mm.
So let's say I had this point in my life was about 1999, before my career was completely exploding. Before that, I was reaching already everything I was able to imagine about my future. I experienced everything already, but what comes after? And then eventually from that point on, I really did understand, hey, you have to be open. You have to really believe in your dreams even more, and you have to be able to have dreams. I still have dreams. I still have dreams. I still have
I hope so.
targets.
That's good.
And it's like that's my driving force.
Mm.
You
Mm.
know,
Yeah.
that's always I wake up in the morning. I have some ideas, or some ideas from yesterday. I don't like today anymore, but it's a constant process going on. I
Mm.
never have reached this point, even though I was in the very bitter parts of my life. I've never reached this point where I'm just like saying, okay, that's it now.
Mm.
What am I going to do now?
Mm.
It's like, yes, pandemia was like really taking me down because I was literally not able to realize any of my ideas I had
Mhm.
for quite a while. And it was really, really fucking painful for me. It
Mm.
was super painful. It's like you want, but you can't. And so many ideas, but you can't. There is no, the circumstances are just not there that you can go any step forward. So I was like standing still, also in my thoughts, in my ideas, in my creativity, in my like being myself. It was probably the most horrible time in my life.
Mm.
I hated to stand still. I just hate it. I
Mm.
know how much it's worth it to move. I know how much it's worth it to think about your ideas, to listen to your instinct, to your visions, and so on and so on. It's so important to have visions, and because this is we only have one life.
Yes.
What
Yes.
should I do? Wait for opportunities, as so many people do,
Mm.
or you just do something. And sometimes you fall, okay, stand up, wipe your mouth, adjust your crown, and we move
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
That's how it is. It's painful sometimes, but it's always a learning process.
Mm. Yeah. It seems like you've not held yourself back with trying things and perhaps on the way making
Never.
mistakes, because I think like that's a huge one. I think for a lot of artists, perhaps sometimes they just hold themselves back from just thinking about, oh, I may not be able to do this or so on. So you
There's
just
so many.
go
I
for
mean,
it, you
artists
try.
artists are generally quite sensitive people
Mm.
because when they're proper artists, I mean, obviously, it's a learning process to express yourself also. And then someone doesn't like it. I know the effect. It's like,
Mm.
you are in your bubble and you have your dream and you
Mm.
have your visions and you present it eventually going out of your bubble. It's a big step. And then you're eventually presenting that to someone and someone said, well, it's okay. It can be done better, da, da, da. And then it's like, whoa, how do I handle that now? Do I handle that? Is it like destroying my motivation because I'm such a fragile character? Or it depends how these
Mm.
things are transported, or is it rather something that is driving me even stronger and says, okay, didn't work this time. Maybe this idea works. Maybe it works this, or maybe I take this for granted, what happened to me, and learn from that, and not like cry in my bedroom. No one likes me. Instead of like, okay, then it's like listen to yourself, bro, and move on, believe in your dreams, move on. Not every dream will become the truth, but it is a strong possibility that your wildest dreams become the truth when you really believe in them and you really do everything for them. It's
Mm.
like we're talking. I'm talking nearly every day. I'm doing a lot of sessions. I have like my private students nowadays, so I'm having like lots of conversations, building a company and blah 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 blah. Um, I just see that day by day how important it is. Also, first of all, to feedback nicely, but then also to listen to the people. There's so much talent, and not even musical talent. Menschlich,
Mm.
human,
Human.
human kind of like strengths. People don't know they have that.
Yeah.
And so on. It's so interesting, inspiring, challenging to experience that in a day-to-day thing. And everyone's so different. Everyone's so different in the how they do things, how they think about things, how they look at things. You know, I, that for yourself, I'm trying to kind of like, take all the experience I have, good and bad, and try to help people to look into the mirror to recognize themselves better in who they are and where they want to go. And probably this is one of my strengths. I only discovered relatively recently how
Yes.
much worth it can have. Right? Only know like never thought of like sharing my experiences with so-called students, and they're even listening to me. That's the best thing. they're even listening to me, and and it's great. I like that. It's not. I don't want to overrate myself. Obviously, I'm just a normal freak. Yeah, but I love it when I, let's say, and if only 10 or 20% of what I'm sharing, telling goes into the right corner and is helping the person I'm talking to, leading into a direction they didn't know before. Hey, it's the best thing that can happen.
Well,
And
you do that so well as well. So we're all very
it can happen
fortunate.
on a creative basis, but also it can happen on the zwischenmenschlichen, on this, like
Yeah.
on the communication, on the way of how you communicate. I mean, I was meeting so many freaks just last year. Oh my God. There's this one guy who has ADHS, and I was like he was my student, and I was like just like helping him control his ADHS with music. Music was like the tool for that, but like just trying to help him understand, to organize the fucking madness in his head. I know it out of my own experience. I have so much experience, as I say, good and bad, and that goes far beyond like being creative and doing like, let's say, a job career, anything like that. If it's depressions, if it's pain, if it's luck, if it's whatever, these things that happen to you in life. I also have learned over the years to be open to myself, first of all, to recognize that, and then also to be open enough to share that, and also to listen to people sharing that without judging them. I like to listen to people. I don't judge people, no matter what they do. I don't judge them. It's not my role to judge. People have opinions, and it's fine. It's totally great. But how many people was in fight just because they don't like my opinion? I don't like the opinion of anyone. Fine, it's their opinion.
Right. Yeah.
I won't change that. It's their opinion.
Mm.
So it's like it's another learning process. It's like, okay, trying to imagine, okay, this is the way the person is like thinking. Maybe we can open one of those little doors in just expanding, helping people to think a little bit further than in the comfort zone. A lot of
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't do that. And this ADHS guy, by the way, met him like nearly a year ago, and nowadays, he becomes to, or he starts becoming a different person, a
Do
more
you,
relaxed.
do you mind sharing a little bit what you did with him or what it was that I guess helped him
I,
in
I
that?
mean, I can share like how did we do that? I mean, as I say, music is I can when someone plays me music, it tells me a lot more than a conversation with a person. It tells me about how is it how is the person structured, how creative is a person, how kind of like safe is a person. And this guy, when he was playing me in like the first like kind of musical things of him, it was basically just an industrial noise. This is what it was, just an industrial noise with like so many things in it. And it was just like it had nothing to do with a track, a song, or anything like that. It was just basically just experimental noises. But then smoking more, diving deep into a situation, and then said, "Hey, this one sound over there, this like kind of like you hear this like this little bit of melodic thing there. Yeah, I hear that." I said, "I think this is really good." Start taking everything out of the whole package of sounds that doesn't make sense to you. There's a lot of, and I have so much in my. I said, let's do this. Let's do this together. This sound doesn't do anything for the track. Now it's rather this. Take it out. Organize. What's good, what's not good, and it's an ongoing process. In the end of the day, it's like it's like the things get more structure in his head. He's understanding and organizing my thoughts and organizing my creativity and ideas and being like a bit more stronger on myself. Yeah, I have a result. I move forward. I have a better overview of my musical project. and I can organize this madness in my head also a slightly bit better. I would think, I think I have a little bit of everything. I also, for two, I have a little bit of ADHS, and I think I'm also even like slightly autistic sometimes. It seems to me like that. When I'm really deep, super ambitious in my thing, I don't realize things happening around me because I'm so deep into that. And yeah, I am learning from that, and I see that also the principle of just like um, listening to people and trying to understand them. So you can, I don't know, this person I help 100%. He told me.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said he has more in little steps, but he has more and more control over his mind. He started making music to exactly work on his ADHS, was a recommendation from someone else. And nowadays he's making tracks.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no industrial noise, but it's still strange what he does. But in the end of the day, he expresses himself. And the expression is a lot more organized. It goes in a direction. He also understands himself now. He didn't understand himself in the beginning. And I mean, Maria, the end of the day, is awesome. This is like when you have results like that. I love that. I'm super grateful that there is situations like that. Super, super grateful. I really, as I said, I would like to help. But then on the other hand, I don't want to overrate myself or so. I'm just, in the end of the day, I'm just a freak. But who strongly believes in something.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
who has learned also to share emotional things and just all the, let's say, the substance about it.
Yeah.
In the end, I have no education. I didn't study. I can't even play an instrument. I mean, in the end of the day, how bitter is that? But it's not important. It's so not important. It's important to have a vision and follow the vision. And if there's steps on your vision you cannot realize yourself, ask someone for help. Why not?
Yes.
I was never afraid of asking someone. So many people say, I want to music field. I want to produce everything myself. I want to be an awesome DJ. I am the best like social media manager, and I'm doing this and doing that. No one can do it. Die eierlegende Wollmilchkuh. It's just no one can do that. And I have never been afraid of asking for help, or as I say in my early days, could not be. I was just not patient enough to dive deep into the technical thing. I wanted result. So I was looking for great technicians already 30 years ago, for great technicians I can work with that are able to basically realize what's in my big head.
Yeah.
And yeah. And there we go. Years later. Huh?
Well, it's a huge inspiration because like also you're showing how all those limitations we put on ourselves, like especially all those shoulds. Oh, if I'm music producer or a DJ, I should be knowing how to do X, Y, and this, or doing it this way, or so on. The limitations we put on ourselves, you broke them all as well.
Thank you, I mean, in the end, we have one life, and my strong experience with nearly everyone of my students is like, yes, there is lots of limitations. They're all in your head. There is no limitations in the end of the day. To be in the right state of mind is, I guess, like the most important thing for everything you do. If it's in your professional life outside of music, or if it's in the expression of making music, technical things you can learn. Technical things, you got everything on YouTube. You got all the tutorials. But express yourself. Listen to your instinct. Listen to your dreams, and really think about, okay, this is unreachable. Is it unreachable? What could I do to realize that? Musical ideas, professional ideas, private life, family life, and so on and so on and so on. I have strongly learned, as I say, I come from a background where I was not even allowed to have my own thoughts, kind of thing. To being an individual who's just like, it's like, of course, I take advices also, and I love to learn every day. I told you that. But in the end of the day, it's like I have also learned to exactly how important that is to listen to your instinct, and how important that is to not limit yourself. I know also there's things I cannot do. But for example, when I have a project, I always, whatever the project is, forming a company, realizing music idea, whatever that is, I always think, what is the maximum result this is how I think, I can
Mm,
achieve with that.
mm, mm,
This is this is the level I want to achieve. When I realize over time, okay, it's just simply not achievable, then I go one level down. But when I'm okay in my plans, yeah, it's good. This is what I want to do. I will never see that what's up there. So my thinking is, first of all, think
mm,
big, trying to
mm,
think as big as possible to understand theoretically how far can an idea go,
mm,
theoretically, um, and then, okay, where am I? Is it completely unreachable? What kind of level I can start with? What is the goals I'm having? And so on. And of course, it's a dynamic, ongoing process, but I always think big. I always think the big picture first. When
mm,
I was, I, I don't want to kind of say, hey, I'm the man or anything like that, but it's a real story. When I was sitting years ago, when I was sitting with my friend James Teach, Canadian DJ producer, and so on, together in my old house years ago, and he was for touring in Europe. He's from Canada, and then he said, "Hey, can I stay at your house like for that week instead of like staying at not?" Of course, I said, "Stay with me. We drink a lot of wine, smoke good weed, have good food, and make some music and so on and so on." Then over this 5 days we were spending there, I asked him, "Hey, I want to get back into remixing artists and not like proper like pop artists, like proper musicians, and not just like track makers or club music or anything like that. I really like that in my earlier days of my career to work on like complex things and just like it's a different level. But I really, I'm missing that. I'm right now. I'm doing like club music, this, that, and so on. But I'm missing the experiment. I'm missing to get out of my comfort zone." And he said, "Yeah, feel honored and da da da, this and that, and la la la." And then he said, "What's your target?" And I said, "Don't take me wrong when I tell you that. What's your target?" I said, "Well, Grammy nomination." And he said, "Well, that's big." I said, "Yeah, correct. That's the biggest. That's the biggest you can reach." And this is what I'm thinking. I said, I don't want to be arrogant at all. But if you ask me if you want to go into pop music, this kind of thing, I said, the ideal case of what is the biggest thing you can do? What's the biggest thing you can reach? Yeah, number one in the charts, of course, is financially the biggest thing. But for yourself, for the reputation, for the confirmation of talent, and blah, 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 I think that's the biggest. That should be the target. Wow, that's impressive. It's like I said, I tell you that. I'm not going out and say, hey, you want to do this, but you ask me for my targets. This is how I'm thinking. And I think that should be always the target. It should be always not to be talked about, but this is the maximum we can reach. And 2 years later, we were nominated for a Grammy. Interesting enough. Interesting enough. And we had no idea. And it was not our target that we said, we want a Grammy. We were just like diving into the whole thing, released all those boundaries that we have, just like make music. We just made music. We just made something we were feeling when we were sitting together. The magic of a collaboration. Come back to that. He's awesome in that. I had some of my most intense musical experiences in my whole career with this guy. And yeah, then eventually really happened. And you have no idea how we reacted when we were getting this news. He was saying, "You told me before." I said, "It's fucking nuts." He said, "I have no idea," but he said, you have to believe strongly in your dreams. Nothing is impossible in the end of the day. Why did someone become an astronaut? Because he was strongly believing into fucking starships and into like the whole fucking thing and just living the dream intensely without without a shadow of a doubt, just believing in the dream. As I said, the most successful people have success because of the ability of doing this. Some are just very smart and structured businessmen, but I mean, even though I really dislike him, but Elon Musk is a good example of that. Totally visionary, totally crazy, crazy, fucking nuts. I mean, how many projects he's done, and he came with a vision. And everyone said, "Hey, you're totally crazy." He's the fucking richest man in the world. He's an asshole, and I really dislike him for what he's saying nowadays, and especially his political views and blah blah blah. But in the end of the day, he's a prime example of how far can you go when you strongly believe in what you want to do. There's no limits. There is no limits.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
looks like having the vision, taking the action, asking for help, breaking the limitations. That seems like
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
the
Yes.
path to go.
Yes. In the end of the day, this is it. I
Mm,
mean, I'm in the end of the day, I'm a simple guy. I have just learned to listen to my instinct and
yeah, very
listen to
much.
my heart. Most importantly,
Mm,
with like coming back to the beginning of our conversation, talking about like music is my language.
yeah.
Yeah. And because I got hurt so much in the very early years, I was even stronger believing in the things, I'm good in, I understand properly music and how do I transport, how do I create it, blah, 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 and everything around it.
Mm,
That gave me many points of my life the strength to sustain.
mm,
Because as I said, life has been good to me, but also life has been fucking shit to me. And, especially when you're very down, it's really difficult to get up again and to get the motivation and the mojo back. And I can tell you, just like relatively recently after pandemic, my mojo was gone
mm,
because I was like experiencing so much pain. It's like my whole like life construct was disappearing in days. Like the life construct, my life plan, where I'm going to, where I'm leading to, where I'm at, was like disappearing, crumbling into dust in 2, 3 days. And then you're sitting there and like, what the actual fuck, with no alternatives, with no help. And it's like, it's, as I told you, I'm serious about that when I said it was the hardest time of my life with the person I am. I got, I would say nowadays, I got my mojo back. I'm rolling again. I'm doing exactly that what I love to do. Working 24/7. I work far too much. I'm far too crazy. I'm doing far too many projects, and I love every little bit of it. And that's me.
wow. I want to thank you so much for taking the time actually to share a
I
bit.
was just looking,
Like
we're nearly talking
I know for
one and a
90
half
minutes.
hours. I
Yes,
was
yes.
just like, oh, fucking hell, Mr. Maas is the lover.
Yes. No, this has been amazing. And for me, I have a continuous like ideas of questions I still would love to ask you, but I know like with time it's just going it
I
could take
mean, I'm still not stressing myself. If there's anything, ask me. I'm still there.
well, yeah, for the artists or the DJs and music production producers listening right now as well, and of course you've already shared so much, but what would be your biggest sort of advice to help them right now on their journey, as well from obviously working with them, you have your students and you have that experience, what they are going through, what would you want to tell them and people listening?
Beside all the target, as I say, everyone has a different target. One wants to
Mm,
make, what guy wants to be on the drum code main stage on the biggest festival in the world in the next 3 years. Good luck. I try to do the best for that. That's the ambition. I would say most importantly, what my personal target is, beside the targets of the very individual targets of my students, is to help them to express themselves perfectly from the artistical side. Because only then it's true and unique. And the uniqueness of the artistical expression is that what I try to tickle out. Sounds very simple, it's not. Because everyone is doing that differently. It's the same track. And I would say, our conversations too is like, you need to do more fine editing, but you need to go deeper into your ideas you're having already. So you have like whatever 25 single tracks in your arrangement, and they're all good, but none of the 25 is worked out 100%. Start working them out 100%, and you will reach completely different things. You give the same track with the 25 like single tracks, Spuren in it, and give it to 5 different people, and you have the result is something completely, 5 completely different things. And this is your artistic expression. Everyone takes it and transport it on a different way and realizes those inspiration on a different way. And really, one of the more important than anything else is for me that whatever my students do is I want them to be true to themselves. I don't want them because I mean, how many do I have? Yeah, I made this melodic house track. I made this tech house track. They give the baby a name before they even have created it until the end. I said, don't think in categories. Make music, make a track. And then after that, you see, oh, well, that's tech house. Well, who gives a fuck as long as it's great, as long as it's you. It doesn't even need to be great. It needs to be you. Because then, only then, everything that comes after producing this track, making a career, blah, 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 everything comes after that. But everything else only works, truly works, when it's you, when it's reflecting you, whatever you do, but when it's reflecting you. It can be GABA techno, it can be whatever. Give the baby any, who's the fuck? I don't the fuck. It's about being true to yourself. It's about recognizing your real talent. It's about recognizing style. It's about just like, listening to your inner self. And a lot of, I know my experience is really that a lot of like people are really, really too much framed and too much like, I want this, I want that, and I want the techno shots and all that. For me, the most important thing is first of all, hey, find yourself. And then the things, I mean, you are a very good example. I remember very well our first meeting, and I thought, oh, where is this leading to? Where is she going to? And every time since I met you, and we were not just like having good conversations and we were listening into the music, you made so many steps forward. And I think it's just, I mean, you are anyways quite a spiritual person anyways. It's how I meet you. And in my frank opinion, in the time since I know you, you have just like, you have developed that I mean, you seen on Instagram, I heard your techno track last night. I was there, I was on my phone, I was thinking, fuck, that's actually pretty cool. And I watch your face with that, and I see, this is like this true shit coming out there, no matter what it is, but it's true shit coming out there. And when I met you the first time, you were, in my frank opinion, maybe I'm wrong, but you seemed a lot more insecure with that. But you're not insecure. Yeah. You're not insecure at all. And you are also a very good example of how things can develop, and from my point of view, frankly, yeah, from my very subjective point of view, and there's actually endless examples for the, let's say, roughly 100 students I've seen in the last year. And it makes me very proud too. I'm very proud. I'm sorry, but when I love something, I'm not finishing the call and it's over. When I see that a success, I'm following most of my students also on Insta, blah, blah, blah. And they say, wow, there's a new release, there's a big gig or anything like that. I'm proud. I'm proud because it's like I see, hey, they do what they love. They succeed in this little microfield where I ask them to work hard on it. I see and feel those micro steps. And it fills me with joy when, at least, as I said, it's when 10-20% of that, what I want to try to transport, when this arrives, fills me completely with joy.
Yes.
And I'm super grateful that there is something like that happening, because this inspires me day by day. This is a big inspiration for me to find myself, not just like in a professional, to find myself also, to recognize myself, because I'm holding people at the mirror, but sometimes I'm holding the mirror I'm also looking at. It's you. I have learned a lot about myself also in the past year, especially, and it's like I'm happy, as I say, and I'm extremely grateful that I can share this, and it also reaches not everyone, but a lot of people on the, I always wish the right point. Quite often it happens. Not always, not everyone is open. Also, there's not always, let's say, the connection. There must be a connection. No, you have to be able to talk openly.
Yeah.
But I'm generally an open-minded person. As I say, most important, no matter who I meet, I don't judge.
Yeah. Well,
and interesting enough, my team around me, when I was just talking with a friend the other day, I said, I am the only fucking normal one in this. Why am I surrounded just by freaks? So I always, I said also in the past, I call myself a freak magnet. Why? Because I don't judge people. I don't, most importantly, also, I don't prejudge people just because I see a picture of someone who doesn't look like a model or whatever, it's like, oh, it's this, or wears this clothes, or listening to that. I don't judge people. They have their opinions. I like to listen to people, and therefore, I'm learning a lot about those people, and the more I learn about the people, the more I'm able to share my experience and say, hey, what do you think of this way? What do you think of that way? Did you ever think music production? Did you ever think it's like a great vocal, but did you ever think of the vocal is awesome, it's like for you it's 100%, for me it's like 30%. You can do so much more. Did you think of second voice? About that, blah blah blah, accentuating this, blah 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 blah, a bit more soft. And then I wasn't thinking about that. Start thinking about that, and you will see you have awesome results.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a beautiful quality that you have, the listening non-judgmentally, and I think this is such a it's an accelerator for anybody working with you to really connect to themselves and to allow their creativity to unfold how it should. So I'm so grateful to have worked with you and continue to work with you. And for anybody that may have the opportunity to work with you, I don't know if you take more students or not, but how is that looking like if anybody listening now, heard you? And
if anybody is listening and thinks, I need a proper kick in the ass of the tech grandpa there, just like write me on Instagram. I'm doing all that stuff. Write me on Insta or wherever, Facebook or so, and then we go from there. I give you then like all my details and contacts. And what I did, I was just getting on a few students just in the past days, and what I did is I'm not taking on everyone. I also have to say it's like I'm taking on people where I'm convinced they are artists. This is the least thing. Sometimes it needs more work. Sometimes it needs less work, but it's like someone who has also at least an experience of creation, experience also of ideas, and so on and so on and so on, that there is already like a good basis to work with. I still have capacity. I don't want to take too many on because it's quite an intense thing I'm doing, and I don't want to have this as this also. I don't do this as a routine. None of my meetings is a routine. Because I am emotional in that. It's like when someone's playing me the music, I'm diving into that. As I say, then the autist is coming back, listening to all the details, listening to the story of the track, diving into that. And as you also know, I'm not limited to any kind of music style. I do myself from the deepest underground experimental to pop and punk rock. Right now I'm working on songs for quite a famous singer, which go from somewhere cinematic electronica to punk rock. Proper 170 BPM right in your face. Yay, here we go. Let's go. I love that. I don't limit myself. And this is like, I don't limit myself. I'm 55 now. I want to tell my story as long as I can. I hope I can do this for many, many more years because, I don't know. Right now, it feels for me like a second spring, we say. It's Zweiter Frühling.
Yes.
Just because the mojo is back. And part of my mojo is back is also my mentoring and coaching I'm doing.
Mm.
because, as I say, in reflecting people, I'm also reflecting myself, and I've learned so much about the other people, but at least the same amount about myself.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, yeah, I'm inspired by you. I thank you so much for, the work we've been doing together, for the inspiration and for helping push me further. And yeah, grateful for what you do anyway, that allow yourself to bring yourself available to people to help them on this journey. And I can't wait to hear more of your amazing creations. So
I
yeah, thank
sent
you
you
so
some of
much.
the. I will send you some of the new things you
Yes.
see.
Oh yeah, I would love to hear
Yeah,
it.
yeah. There's some fucking awesome stuff. To be
Yes.
honest,
Oh, I can't
yeah,
wait.
some really really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
no,
So thank you. This has been wonderful. And yeah, I'm super, super grateful you came onto this. And yeah, thank you.
thanks for your trust. Thanks so much, and it has been a great pleasure for me too. So perfect, nice, and I will see
Fantastic.
you soon. Anyways, in
Yeah,
one of our sessions.
absolutely. Of course. Thanks. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Born to Create. I hope you found today's conversation as inspiring and enlightening as I did. Remember, creativity is not just about making art. It's about embracing transformation, nurturing our mental and emotional health, and connecting with our deeper selves. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners and continue bringing you these powerful stories. Until next time, stay inspired, keep creating, and remember that you were born to create.